The morning sun peeked through the thin curtains of Maya Wilson's small apartment as she dragged herself out of bed. Her muscles ached from yesterday's 12-hour shift at Café Lumière. 3 years of carrying trays, wiping tables, and forcing smiles at rude customers had worn her down. At 26, Maya had almost given up on her dream of going to art school. One day at a time, she whispered to herself as she splashed cold water on her face. The bathroom mirror reflected tired eyes that once sparkled with hope. Her wavy, brown hair was pulled back in a messy bun and dark circles shadowed her eyes. Maya glanced at the stack of bills on her kitchen counter. Her younger sister Lily was in her second year of college, and the tuition payments ate up most of Maya's earnings. Still, seeing Lily chase her dreams made it all worthwhile. Worth every blister, Maya said with a small smile as she pulled on her work shoes. The walk to the cafe took 15 minutes. Maya enjoyed these quiet moments, noticing things others might miss. How the morning light hit the buildings, the way an old man fed pigeons on the same bench every day, the changing colors of flowers in the park. She had an eye for beauty in ordinary places. The cafe was already busy when she arrived. Maya tied her apron and jumped into the morning rush, pouring coffees and serving pastries with practiced efficiency. "Mail for you, Maya," her boss called out during her afternoon break. "Looks fancy." Maya took the envelope, surprised. Nobody ever sent her actual mail. The envelope was thick and cream-colored with gold lettering. Her name was written in elegant handwriting on the front. "Did someone leave this for me?" she asked, turning it over in her hands. Her boss shrugged. "Came with the regular mail." During her break, Maya carefully opened the envelope. Inside was an invitation card that looked like something from a movie, heavy paper with embossed letters that shimmered in the light. "Ms. Maya Wilson," she read aloud, "your presence is requested at the annual Hope Foundation Charity Gala, hosted by Mr. Elijah Blackwood at Cliff House Estate." Maya nearly dropped the card. Everyone knew about Elijah Blackwood. The 34-year-old billionaire had created some kind of revolutionary solar energy technology that made him richer than most countries. He rarely appeared in public and was known as much for his privacy as his wealth. "This has to be a mistake," she muttered, checking the envelope again. But there was no mistake. It was addressed specifically to her, with instructions for formal attire and noting that transportation would be provided this coming Saturday at 7 p.m. When Maya got home that evening, she showed the invitation to her roommate Tina. "Are you kidding me?" Tina shrieked, jumping up from the couch. "The Elijah Blackwood? The guy who bought an island last year just because he liked the shape of it?" "I think it's a mistake," Maya said, sinking into their worn-out armchair. "Why would someone like him invite someone like me to some fancy party? Who cares why?" Tina's eyes were wide with excitement. "This is like those stories where Cinderella gets to go to the ball. You have to go." "With what dress? With what shoes?" Maya gestured around their tiny apartment. "I can barely afford new work shoes. I don't exactly have gala attire hanging in my closet." Tina tapped her chin thoughtfully. "I still have that blue dress from my cousin's wedding. It would look amazing on you." "Come on, Maya. When's the last time something exciting happened?" That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She kept looking at the invitation on her nightstand. A quick internet search on her phone showed pictures of last year's gala. Celebrities, business leaders, and politicians all mingling in what looked like a palace. The articles mentioned that the gala raised millions for education programs in low-income areas. Maybe they need extra waitstaff, she reasoned. But why send such a fancy invitation? The next few days passed in a blur of curiosity and anxiety. Maya found herself looking up Elijah Blackwood online during her breaks. There weren't many photos of him, but in the few that existed, he looked serious and intense, tall with dark hair and gray eyes that seemed to look right through the camera. Articles described him as brilliant but private, generous but mysterious. By Saturday, Maya's curiosity had won over her doubts. She tried on Tina's midnight blue dress, which fit surprisingly well, hugging her curves and making her feel like someone else entirely. "You look beautiful," Tina said sincerely, lending Maya a pair of silver earrings to complete the look. "Like you belong at a fancy party." At exactly 7 p.m., Maya's phone buzzed with a message. Your car has arrived. Outside their apartment building waited a sleek black car with tinted windows. A driver in a crisp uniform opened the door for her. Good evening, Ms. Wilson, he said politely. Mr. Blackwood is looking forward to your attendance. Maya's heart pounded as she slid into the soft leather seat. The car smelled new and expensive. As they drove away from her neighborhood with its familiar sights and sounds, Maya felt like she was leaving her real life behind. Is this really happening? She whispered to herself, clutching her small borrowed purse. The drive took nearly an hour, moving from city streets to a coastal highway that wound along cliffs overlooking the ocean. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Finally, the car turned onto a private road guarded by a security gate that opened automatically as they approached. Maya gasped as Cliff House Estate came into view. It wasn't just a mansion, it was like something from a dream. Modern glass and stone structures seemed to grow right out of the cliffside, with lights glowing warmly against the darkening sky. The main building faced the ocean, huge windows, reflecting the last rays of sunset. The car pulled up to the entrance where other guests in expensive clothes were arriving. Maya suddenly felt small and out of place. You can do this, she told herself, taking a deep breath. Just act like you belong here. As the driver opened her door, Maya stepped out carefully in her borrowed heels. The salty ocean breeze touched her face as she looked up at the magnificent house. Music and laughter drifted from inside. Why am I here? She wondered, heart racing, with a mixture of excitement and fear. What could someone like Elijah Blackwood possibly want with me? With one more deep breath, Maya walked toward the entrance, completely unaware that this night would change her life forever. Maya stood at the entrance of Cliff House Estate, her borrowed heels already pinching her toes. Two massive wooden doors stood open, revealing a grand entry hall with a crystal chandelier that sparkled like falling stars. Men in tuxedos and women in designer gowns moved through the space with easy confidence. Maya tugged at her dress, suddenly aware of every imperfection. Invitation, please, said a young man in a perfectly pressed suit, his smile professional but warm. Maya fumbled with her small purse, pulling out the cream-colored card with shaking fingers. I'm not sure I belong here, she said softly, more to herself than to him. The man scanned her invitation and his eyebrows rose slightly. Ms. Wilson, we've been expecting you. His tone changed, becoming more respectful. Please come in. Inside, the mansion was even more breathtaking. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the ocean and night sky, while soft lighting created a warm glow throughout the space. The floors were polished stone that reflected the light, and modern artwork hung on walls painted in soft, neutral tones. Music from a small orchestra floated through the air, mixing with the gentle hum of conversation and occasional bursts of laughter. A waiter passed by with a tray of champagne glasses. Maya took one gratefully, hoping the bubbly drink might calm her nerves. First time at one of these? Asked an older woman with silver hair and kind eyes, noticing Maya's wide-eyed expression. Is it that obvious? Maya replied with a nervous laugh. Only to someone who remembers their own first time, the woman said with a wink. I'm Rose. My husband donated some boring old paintings to the foundation. Maya introduced herself, relaxing slightly. I still don't know why I was invited. Rose smiled mysteriously. Elijah Blackwood rarely does anything without purpose. I'm sure you'll find out soon enough. Before Maya could ask more questions, Rose was called away by friends, leaving Maya alone again. She wandered through the crowd, admiring the beautiful clothes and catching snippets of conversations about yacht trips and investment opportunities. She had never felt more out of place. Waiters circulated with tiny, perfect foods on silver trays, things Maya couldn't even name but that melted deliciously in her mouth. The champagne had given her a pleasant warmth, and she began to enjoy simply observing this world so different from her own. Excuse me, said a deep voice behind her. Are you Maya Wilson? She turned to find a tall man with salt and pepper hair and glasses looking at her expectantly. His tuxedo was impeccable, but his expression was friendly. "Yes, that's me," she answered, wondering if she'd finally discover why she was there. "Wonderful. I'm David, Mr. Blackwood's personal assistant." He extended his hand, which Maya shook. "He's asked me to bring you to him when you arrived." Maya's heart began to race. "Mr. Blackwood wants to see me? Why?" David just smiled. "He prefers to explain himself. If you'll follow me." Maya glanced around the crowded ballroom, then nodded. David led her away from the main party, through a quieter area where fewer guests mingled. They turned down a hallway with plush carpet that muffled their footsteps. "Is Mr. Blackwood always this mysterious?" Maya asked as they walked. David chuckled. "Always, but usually for good reason." They passed several closed doors before stopping. At the end of the hallway, where a set of double doors stood partially open, soft light spilled out into the hallway. "The gallery is through here," David explained. "Mr. Blackwood will join you shortly. Take your time looking around." Before Maya could ask another question, David had disappeared back down the hallway, leaving her alone before the doors. She took a deep breath and pushed them open. The gallery was unlike the rest of the house. While the mansion was bright and open, this room was dimly lit, with focused lighting illuminating only the photographs that hung on the dark walls. The space was silent and empty of other guests. Maya stepped inside, letting her eyes adjust to the lower light. Each wall featured black and white photographs in identical black frames, arranged with perfect precision. Moving closer to the nearest one, she saw an elderly man with weathered hands carving what looked like a violin. The image captured every line on his face, every callus on his fingers. Though the photo showed only his hands and part of his face, Maya could feel his concentration and passion. She moved slowly around the room, studying each photograph. There were dozens of them. A child jumping through a sprinkler with pure joy on her face, an old couple holding hands on a park bench, a street musician lost in his music. Each image captured something raw and real, moments of genuine human experience. "These are beautiful," she whispered, forgetting her nervousness as she lost herself in the photographs. The images seemed to tell a story as she moved through the gallery, everyday people experiencing life's simple joys and sorrows. None of the subjects seemed to be aware they were being photographed, giving the collection an intimate, almost voyeuristic quality that made Maya feel like she was peeking into private moments. As she turned a corner into a smaller section of the gallery, she noticed one photograph larger than the others displayed prominently on the center wall. Something about it drew her forward. Unlike the others, this image was positioned in a way that made it the clear focal point of the entire collection. Maya moved closer, curious about what made this photograph special enough for such treatment. The lighting above it was perfect, illuminating every detail of the black and white image, and then she saw it. Maya froze mid-step, her champagne glass nearly slipping from her fingers. The blood drained from her face as she stared at the photograph in the black frame. It was her. In the photograph, Maya stood behind the counter at Café Lumière. Her head was tilted back slightly in laughter, her eyes crinkled at the corners, with genuine joy. Sunlight from the cafe window caught in her hair, creating a soft halo effect around her face. She was pouring coffee, her hands graceful in motion, captured in a perfect moment of unself-conscious happiness. Maya could even remember that day, a regular Tuesday about 6 months ago. A group of college students had told a silly joke that made her laugh. It had been a completely ordinary moment in her completely ordinary life. "This can't be real," she whispered, moving closer to examine the photograph. But there was no doubt. It was definitely her. The small birthmark near her left eyebrow, the tiny silver necklace her mother had given her, even the coffee stain on her apron sleeve. Every detail was captured with perfect clarity. Questions raced through her mind. How had someone taken this photograph without her noticing? Why would anyone want a picture of her? And most disturbing of all, why was her image hanging in a billionaire's private gallery, displayed like a prized possession? Maya stepped back, her heart pounding. She looked around frantically, suddenly feeling exposed and vulnerable. The private gallery that had seemed so impressive moments before now felt threatening. Was she being watched even now? "What is going on?" she whispered, wrapping her arms around herself. The sound of the gallery door opening made her jump. Maya spun around, unsure whether to confront whoever entered or to run. She backed away from her photograph, bumping into the wall behind her, as a tall figure stepped into the room. "I see you found it," said a deep, calm voice. "I've been waiting a long time to meet you, Maya." Maya pressed herself against the wall, her heart racing as she faced the man who had just entered the gallery. In the dim lighting, she could make out a tall figure with broad shoulders and dark hair. As he stepped further into the light, she saw his face clearly for the first time. Elijah Blackwood wasn't what she expected. From magazine photos and news clips, Maya had imagined someone older, more polished, with the smooth confidence of old money. The man before her looked to be in his mid-30s with slightly rumpled dark hair that fell across his forehead. He wore a simple black suit that fit him perfectly, but lacked the flashy details of other guests' attire. His most striking feature was his eyes, an intense gray that seemed to see right through her. "I should call security," Maya said, her voice shakier than she intended. She glanced around for an exit, feeling trapped. Elijah held up his hands in a peaceful gesture. "I understand this must be alarming, finding your photograph here without explanation." "Alarming? It's creepy." Maya's fear was giving way to anger. "How did you get this picture? Have you been stalking me?" A flash of surprise crossed Elijah's face. "No, nothing like that. I never meant to frighten you." He ran a hand through his hair, messing it up further. For a billionaire hosting a glamorous party, he seemed strangely uncomfortable. "I'm not explaining this well." "Then explain it better," Maya demanded, standing straighter. "Why am I here? Why is my picture on your wall?" Elijah gestured to a small seating area in the corner of the gallery. "Would you sit with me? Please? It's a long story." Maya hesitated, then nodded curtly. She perched on the edge of a leather chair, ready to bolt if necessary. Elijah sat across from her, keeping a respectful distance. "I'm a photographer," he began. "Before the tech company, before the money, that's what I studied in college. It's still what I care about most." Maya glanced around at the gallery of photographs. "You took all these?" He nodded. "Photography lets me see people as they really are. Not posing, not pretending, just living." "So you spy on people without their permission?" Maya challenged. Elijah winced. "Street photography exists in this ethical gray area. The best moments happen when people don't know they're being observed." He looked at her directly. 6 months ago, I was working on a project documenting genuine moments of joy in everyday settings. Maya's mind raced back. "You were at the cafe?" "Many times. I started going for the lighting, the way morning sun comes through those big windows. But I kept returning because of you." "Me?" Maya's voice was barely a whisper. "You had the most authentic smile I'd ever seen," Elijah said simply. "In a place where most people were just going through motions, you seemed truly present. I took dozens of photographs, but that one..." He nodded toward her image. "That one captured something special." Maya stood and walked back to the photograph, seeing it with new eyes. She did look happy in the image, genuinely unguardedly happy in a way she rarely saw herself. "That still doesn't explain why I'm here tonight," she said, turning back to face him. Elijah stood as well, keeping his distance. "That photograph won the Barstow Prize for Contemporary Photography last month. It's become the centerpiece of my new exhibition, Unguarded Moments. The show opens to the public next week." Maya's jaw dropped. "You won a prize with my face? Without asking me?" "Yes," he admitted. "And that was wrong. I've been trying to find you ever since the nomination was announced, to get your permission and to share the recognition and the prize money." "Prize money?" "It's substantial," Elijah said. "Enough to fund an education, perhaps." A chill ran through Maya. How do you know about that? When I finally discovered your identity, through the cafe manager, by the way, not anything sinister. I wanted to learn about you. Elijah looked somewhat embarrassed. David found your application to the Parker Institute of Fine Arts from 3 years ago. The mention of art school made Maya's chest tighten. You dug into my personal life? I crossed a line, Elijah admitted. More than once. I'm trying to make it right. Maya walked to the window, needing space to think. Outside, the ocean stretched dark and endless beneath the night sky. The party continued in the distance, the sound of music and laughter floating through the mansion. So tonight was what? Charity? Pity for the poor waitress who couldn't afford her dreams? The bitterness in her voice surprised even her. No, Elijah said firmly, moving to stand beside her at the window. It was admiration and a desire to fix my mistake. Maya turned to look at him, really study him. Despite his wealth and power, there was something vulnerable in his expression, an earnestness that seemed genuine. I've been taking photographs without permission for years, he continued. It's how I built my career. But seeing your face, on magazine covers, hearing critics praise my discovery of you, it made me realize I've been taking something that doesn't belong to me. I need to make amends, starting with you. How exactly do you plan to do that? Maya asked. First, by getting your proper consent to display the photograph. If you say no, it comes down. No questions asked. His eyes held hers steadily. Second, by sharing the prize money and any future earnings from the image. It's as much yours as mine. Maya let out a long breath. That's unexpected. There's more, Elijah said. The Parker Institute. Your application essay was brilliant. Your portfolio showed real talent. That was a long time ago, Maya said quietly. Talent doesn't disappear, Elijah replied. I've endowed a scholarship at Parker. Full tuition, materials, living expenses. It's yours if you want it. Maya stared at him in disbelief. Why would you do that for a stranger? Because art matters. Because education should be available to everyone with passion and skill. He paused. And because your photograph reminds people that joy can exist in ordinary moments. That's worth something. Maya walked back to her photograph, studying it with conflicted emotions. Part of her was still angry about the invasion of privacy, but another part felt a strange pride seeing her image displayed so prominently. This exhibition, she said slowly. Tell me more about it. Relief flooded Elijah's face. He moved to stand beside her, careful to maintain a respectful distance. It's called Unguarded Moments. Everyday people experiencing authentic emotions. Your photograph is the centerpiece because it captures the thesis perfectly. Beauty exists in ordinary life, if we're paying attention. As he spoke about the exhibition, Maya noticed how his entire demeanor changed. The awkward billionaire disappeared, replaced by a passionate artist. His hands moved expressively, his eyes lit up, and his voice grew warm with enthusiasm. The show tours major galleries for 6 months, he concluded, starting at the Modern Art Museum downtown next week. Maya took a deep breath. If I say yes to all this, the photograph, the scholarship, what's the catch? No catch, Elijah said. Just an apology and a chance to right a wrong. Maya looked back at her photograph, then around at the other images in the gallery. Each one captured something honest and real about its subject. She thought about art school, the dream she'd set aside but never truly abandoned. I need time to think, she finally said. Elijah nodded. Of course. Take all the time you need. He reached into his pocket and handed her a business card with just his name and phone number. When you decide, call me directly, no assistants, no gatekeepers. Their fingers brushed as she took the card, and Maya felt an unexpected warmth travel up her arm. For a moment their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. I should get back to my guests, Elijah said softly, breaking the silence. You're welcome to stay and look around, or David can drive you home whenever you're ready. As he turned to leave, Maya found herself calling after him. "Mr. Blackwood?" He paused at the door. "Elijah, please." "Elijah," she repeated. "Thank you for telling me the truth." A small smile touched his lips. "Thank you for listening." As the door closed behind him, Maya turned back to her photograph, seeing herself through new eyes. For the first time in years, possibilities stretched before her like an open road. Whatever she decided about the photograph and the scholarship, something had shifted tonight. The frame that had initially seemed like a violation of her privacy now looked more like an open door. She just had to decide whether to walk through it. Maya waited 3 days before calling the number on Elijah's card. 3 days of turning the strange encounter over in her mind, discussing it with Tina late into the night, and staring at the ceiling instead of sleeping. "If you don't call him, I will," Tina had finally declared on the third morning, pointing at Maya with a spoon dripping cereal milk. "You've got a billionaire art guy offering you a scholarship, and you're still making coffee for people who don't tip." "It's not that simple," Maya had protested, but she knew her resolve was weakening. That afternoon, on her break at the cafe, she finally made the call. To her surprise, Elijah answered on the second ring. "Maya," he said, her name a statement, rather than a question. "I'm glad you called." 2 weeks later, Maya found herself walking across the sunlit campus of the Parker Institute of Fine Arts, Elijah beside her. The spring day was perfect. Blue skies, flowering trees, and students sprawled on the grass sketching or reading. "Classes for the fall semester start in August," Elijah explained as they walked. "The scholarship paperwork is already processed. All you need to do is confirm your acceptance." Maya stopped to take it all in. The beautiful old buildings with their tall windows, the modern studio spaces, the energy of creative people everywhere she looked. It was everything she had dreamed about for years. "I still can't believe this is happening," she said softly. "You belong here," Elijah replied simply. "I could see your eye for composition in the way you arranged even simple things at the cafe. Your old application portfolio showed real talent." Maya felt warmth rise in her cheeks at the compliment. Over the past 2 weeks, she'd spoken with Elijah several times, first about the legal permissions for her photograph, then about the scholarship details, and finally about art itself. Each conversation had revealed more layers to the man behind the billionaire image. "The exhibition opens tonight," he reminded her as they continued walking. "Will you come? Your photograph will be there, but you don't have to attend if it makes you uncomfortable." Maya had been thinking about this for days. "I'll come," she decided. "I'd like to see it through your eyes." Elijah's smile transformed his serious face. "I'll send a car for you at 7. That evening, Maya stood in front of the Modern Art Museum, heart racing as she looked at the banner hanging above the entrance. Unguarded Moments Photography by Elijah Blackwood. And below it, a smaller version of her own face laughing behind the cafe counter. Inside, the gallery was crowded with well-dressed people holding wine glasses and speaking in hushed, appreciative tones. Maya moved through them quietly, listening to their comments about the photographs. No one recognized her from the centerpiece image, her 15 minutes of fame happening right in front of her, yet separate from her actual self. "What do you think?" Elijah's voice came from behind her, soft and slightly anxious. Maya turned to find him looking more formal than she'd seen him before, in a charcoal suit and tie. "It's beautiful," she said honestly. "The way you've arranged them tells a story." Relief washed over his face. "That's exactly what I was trying to do. Come, there's someone I'd like you to meet." He led her to an elderly man with wild white hair and bright blue eyes. "Maya, this is Thomas Chen. He's the head of the photography department at Parker and my former teacher." Professor Chen shook Maya's hand warmly. "Ah, the famous cafe girl. Elijah tells me you'll be joining us this fall." "If everything works out," Maya said cautiously. "With your eye and Elijah's recommendation, I'd say it's already working out." The professor winked at her. "He showed me your old application portfolio. Remarkable composition instinct." As the evening progressed, Maya found herself introduced to gallery owners, art critics, and other photographers. To her surprise, she felt comfortable in this world, not because of the glamour, but because these people spoke passionately about things she cared about. "They like you," Elijah observed, as they finally found a quiet moment, alone standing before her photograph. "They like the idea of me," Maya corrected him. "The waitress discovered by the famous photographer, it's a good story." Elijah frowned slightly. "That's not why I showed them your portfolio." "I know," Maya said more gently. "And I'm grateful. I just need to prove I belong here for reasons beyond that photograph." "You will," he said with such certainty that she almost believed him. The following weeks brought dramatic changes to Maya's life. She gave notice at the cafe, registered for fall classes at Parker, and moved into a small but sunny apartment closer to campus, paid for by her portion of the prize money from the photograph. Elijah had insisted on splitting everything equally, including the proceeds from prints sold at the exhibition. "Your face, my camera," he'd said simply. "We both created this." As spring turned to summer, Maya found herself spending more and more time at Elijah's studio, a converted warehouse, in the industrial district that was nothing like his cliffside mansion. Here there were no staff, no luxury, just vast open spaces filled with photography equipment, work tables covered with prints, and walls papered with images in various stages of selection. "This is where I'm happiest," Elijah told her one evening, as they sorted through photographs for his next project. "Most people think I'm just a tech guy who takes pictures as a hobby. They have it backward," Maya finished for him, understanding now how his passion for photography drove everything else. She began assisting him on photo shoots, learning about lighting, timing, and the patience required to capture authentic moments. In exchange, he gave her access to equipment she could never afford, and introduced her to his contacts in the art world. "You're giving me too much," she said one day after he'd lent her a camera worth more than her yearly income at the cafe. Elijah looked up from the contact sheets he was examining. "I'm making investments in a talented photographer. Completely selfish, I assure you." But they both knew it was more than that. As the weeks passed, their professional relationship had evolved into friendship, and perhaps something more, something neither was ready to name but both felt with increasing certainty. What surprised Maya most was how different Elijah was from his public image. In his studio, he was just a dedicated artist who worked obsessively and forgot to eat unless reminded. They shared similar backgrounds, both raised by single mothers, both finding escape through art, though his technological innovations had funded his passion, while hers had been put on hold. "Do you ever regret giving up art school?" he asked one rainy afternoon as they sheltered in a cafe after a shoot. Not her old cafe, but a tiny place with mismatched furniture and excellent pastries. Maya considered the question. "I don't regret helping my sister. But yes, I regretted putting my dreams on hold. Now I get another chance." As summer progressed, Maya developed her own distinctive style, more vibrant and hopeful than Elijah's sometimes stark realism. Her first assignment for Professor Chen's summer workshop earned enthusiastic praise, with no mention of her connection to Elijah Blackwood. "You earned this on your own," Professor Chen told her, tapping her portfolio. "Never doubt that." The exhibition Unguarded Moments traveled to galleries across the country, Maya's photograph always at its center. Art critics praised Blackwood for capturing authentic human experience, unaware that the subject of his most celebrated image was now becoming an artist in her own right. On a warm evening in late July, Elijah invited Maya to dinner at his studio. She arrived to find the large space transformed, work tables cleared away, lights dimmed, and a small table set up near the windows overlooking the city. "What's the occasion?" she asked as he poured wine into simple glasses. "Good news," he said, his gray eyes bright with excitement. "The New York show sold out completely. Your share of the proceeds just tripled." Maya laughed. "At this rate, I'll be able to afford my own camera." Actually, Elijah disappeared into his office and returned with a small box. "I thought it was time." Inside was a professional camera, not as expensive as his, but perfect for her developing style. "Elijah, I can't." "You can." He interrupted gently. This isn't charity. It's belief in your work. As she held the camera, testing its weight and balance, Maya realized how far she had come from that night at the gala when she'd first seen her photograph. The frame that had once seemed like an invasion now felt like the beginning of a new story. What neither Maya nor Elijah had anticipated was how their creative partnership would gradually shift into something deeper. A connection neither was prepared to name, but both felt with increasing certainty as summer days lengthened and new possibilities unfolded before them. 1 year after the night Maya had frozen before her own image in Elijah's gallery, she stood in a different gallery altogether. The small space downtown wasn't fancy, just white walls, wooden floors, and track lighting. But tonight, it was hers. I can't believe we pulled this off, she whispered to Tina, who was arranging a tray of cheese and crackers on a small table. Are you kidding? Your photographs are amazing. People will be fighting to get in here, Tina replied, straightening the napkins for the 5th time. She was more nervous than Maya. Maya looked around at the 20 photographs displayed on the walls, her first solo exhibition. The collection, titled Reflections in Passing, captured everyday moments of connection between people. An old man teaching his granddaughter to fish, 2 strangers sharing an umbrella at a bus stop, a street musician's face as a child dropped coins in his case. Professor Chen had helped her secure the gallery space, impressed by her portfolio from her first semester at Parker. Your work deserves to be seen, he'd insisted. You have a gift for capturing genuine emotion. The past year had been the most transformative of Maya's life. She'd excelled in her classes, developed her own photographic style, and slowly grown more confident in her talent. The money from the continued success of Unguarded Moments had given her financial security she'd never known before, allowing her to focus entirely on her art. And then there was Elijah. Their relationship had evolved in unexpected ways, from mentor and student to friends to something more complex and tender. They'd never put a label on it, but they'd grown closer with each passing month, sharing not just a passion for photography, but also quiet dinners, long walks, and conversations that lasted until dawn. Maya checked her watch. 30 minutes until the doors opened. Guests would start arriving soon. Her fellow students, professors, local artists, and maybe a few critics Elijah had invited. He's late, Tina observed, following Maya's glance, at the door. He'll be here, Maya said, though a small flutter of anxiety passed through her. Elijah had been acting strangely all week, distracted during conversations, disappearing for hours without explanation. Part of her worried he was losing interest now that she was standing on her own as an artist. The sound of the door opening made her turn. Elijah stood there, slightly out of breath, his hair wind-blown. He wore a simple blue button-down shirt and dark jeans, dressed more casually than she expected for her opening. Sorry I'm late, he said, crossing to her. Last-minute details. Before Maya could ask what he meant, he handed her a small wrapped package. A graduation gift. 1 year since everything changed. Maya unwrapped the package carefully. Inside was a simple black frame, identical to the ones he'd used in his gallery. But this frame didn't contain a photograph. Instead, it held a handwritten letter on cream-colored paper. Read it after the show, Elijah said softly, when you have a quiet moment. Maya nodded, touching the frame gently before setting it aside. Something in his expression made her heart beat faster, but there was no time to dwell on it. The first guests were arriving. The next 2 hours passed in a blur of introductions, congratulations, and explanations of her work. To Maya's amazement, red sold dots began appearing beside her photographs within the first hour. People were actually buying her art, strangers who had no idea she'd been serving coffee just a year ago. Professor Chen brought a group of gallery owners who asked thoughtful questions about her technique. Fellow students clustered around certain images, debating composition choices. Even Maya's sister Lily came, having taken a bus from her college 2 hours away, beaming with pride as she told everyone, "That's my big sister's work." Through it all, Maya noticed Elijah hanging back, watching her shine with quiet satisfaction. He spoke with various guests about her talent but never tried to take center stage or claim credit for discovering her. This was her night, and he seemed content to witness it. As the crowd thinned near closing time, Maya found a moment to stand, alone before her favorite photograph in the collection. It showed an elderly couple on a park bench, their hands intertwined, faces turned toward each other in a moment of such intimate connection that it almost felt too private to witness. "That one's my favorite too," Elijah said, coming to stand beside her. "I took it the day after our picnic at Riverside Park," Maya replied. "Remember the couple we saw? They'd been married for 62 years. Elijah nodded. "You captured something most photographers spend lifetimes chasing: genuine connection." A comfortable silence fell between them as they looked at the photograph together. Around them, the last few guests were saying goodbyes and Tina was starting to clean up. 9 photographs sold, Maya said, still not quite believing it. "Professor Chen says 2 gallery owners want to talk about including my work in upcoming shows." "I'm not surprised," Elijah replied. "Your talent was always there. You just needed the opportunity to develop it." Maya turned to look at him directly. "Thank you, not just for the scholarship or the mentoring, but for believing in me before I believed in myself." "You did the hard work," he said simply. And the gallery emptied, and Tina announced she was heading home. "You two handle the final lockup?" she asked with a knowing smile. When they were alone, Maya remembered the framed letter. She picked it up from where she'd carefully placed it behind the reception desk. "Can I read it now?" she asked. Elijah nodded, suddenly looking nervous, an expression she rarely saw on his confident face. Maya opened the black frame and unfolded the letter inside. As she read Elijah's words, his confession of falling in love with her image first and then, more deeply, with the woman she truly was, her hands began to tremble slightly. The letter spoke of their shared passion for art, their similar backgrounds, and the unexpected joy he'd found in watching her grow into her talent. The final paragraph asked a question about their future, not a proposal, but an invitation to explore what might be possible between them. "I never expected this," Maya said softly, looking up at him with shining eyes. "When I saw my photograph that night at your gallery, I thought my life had been stolen somehow. I never imagined it was actually beginning." Elijah took a step closer. "When I took that photograph, I captured a moment of genuine joy. I never expected to find the source of that joy would change my life too." "What happens now?" Maya asked. "Whatever we want," Elijah replied. "Your career is taking off. You've proven your talent has nothing to do with me or that photograph. The future is yours to decide." Maya looked around the small gallery, at her work, her vision, her achievement. Then she looked back at Elijah, seeing beyond the billionaire, labeled to the passionate artist who had seen something in her worth capturing. "Did you notice I added one more photograph to the collection?" she asked, nodding toward a corner of the gallery. In the far corner hung a black-framed image that hadn't been there during the installation. Elijah walked over to examine it, Maya following behind. The photograph showed Elijah in his studio, bent over his work table examining negatives. His face was completely absorbed in the task, unaware of the camera. The image captured his intensity, his focus, and his genuine passion for photography. Maya had titled it simply, "The Photographer Captured." "When did you take this?" he asked, his voice thick with emotion. 3 months ago. You were so focused you never noticed me with the camera." She smiled. "How does it feel to be on the other side of the lens?" Elijah studied the photograph for a long moment. "It feels like coming full circle," he finally said. "Like balance." The black-framed image hung directly opposite her own photograph, from the cafe, creating a visual conversation across the room. 2 people who had seen each other truly, first through a lens and then, more importantly, beyond it. Maya took Elijah's hand, their fingers intertwining much like the elderly couple in her favorite photograph. "Do you think there's more to our story?" she asked. "I'm certain of it," he replied, gently squeezing her hand. "And this time we'll capture every moment together. As they turned off the gallery lights and locked the door behind them, Maya thought about frames, how they could contain a single moment yet open up entire worlds. The frame that had once frozen her in place had ultimately set her free, leading her to a future filled with possibility, creativity, and unexpected love. Sometimes, she realized, the most beautiful photographs were the ones you couldn't yet imagine, the ones waiting just beyond the viewfinder in the life that followed.